Thank you to Sideways 8 for sponsoring this podcast.
From Susan G. Komen, this is Real Pink, a podcast exploring real stories, struggles, and triumphs related to breast cancer. We're taking the conversation from the doctor's office to your living room. On Real Pink, we often speak with breast cancer survivors and those living with metastatic breast cancer. And we hear stories about fear, confusion, and the anxiety that a breast cancer diagnosis can cause. But I have also heard from many men and women listening to Real Pink that they have been helped by hearing real-life stories from other survivors that are sharing their experience. So, to share her personal story and her journey through breast cancer, today with me on the show is Kikkan Randall. Kikkan has competed in 5 Olympics and finished the last Olympics with the gold medal in the team sprint. She also leads a nonprofit called Fast and Female, working to keep girls in sports. She works with the Olympic Committee. She does motivational speaking, and she was the only mom on Team USA in the 2018 Olympics. Kikkan, welcome to the show.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. And wow, that's a mouthful. You got it all in there.
But I didn't. That's what's so amazing. Like, I think your resume is like way longer than that. And so like, it's so impressive. I am so excited just to hear your story, and not just your story through breast cancer, but just like seeing it through the eyes of an elite athlete that has just done amazing. I mean, 5 Olympics, that's just unbelievable.
Well, cross-country skiing is a sport kind of like a fine wine. You keep getting better with age. So it gave me a nice long career to work up to that pinnacle of the gold medal. But then amazingly, in a short time, I think the tides returned a little bit, and I had to use that experience to conquer a new challenge. And that's been overcoming breast cancer in this past year.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's walk me through what some of your largest challenges have been overcoming breast cancer.
Well, I think as an athlete, I was used to really having control over my body. I certainly put myself through a lot of discomfort, but I always had the option to stop, and with so much of the cancer, there's a lot out of your control. And it's kind of upsetting to realize that you're not just in this invincible superhuman that can outwork anything thrown your way. At the same time, I was able to really see breast cancer as that kind of big challenge, just like when I was going after a big result in skiing, and just take this big, scary, daunting thing and break it down into smaller chunks until I had something I could control, something to work on in front of me every single day. And I think just really coming at it with the right mindset, staying positive, and being able to break it down into those manageable chunks has really helped me to get through this one piece at a time.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you said and I'm hearing you well, because I think what you just said is kind of brilliant. So it sounds like basically you took and compared training for the Olympics, where you've got this sort of gigantic goal and you break it into small, manageable, bite-sized chunks, and you essentially applied that methodology to getting through your breast cancer diagnosis by breaking it into let's get through today. Can you give me a little bit of an example of what does that look like?
Sure. Well, I mean, when I was first thinking about trying to win an Olympic medal in cross-country skiing, no American woman had ever done it before. So there was no roadmap to say it was even possible. And at times it was scary to say out loud, I want to go for a medal, when it had never been done before. But I was also kind of excited to see how far I could push myself to go through that. And so when I got my cancer diagnosis, it kind of felt similar to me, in that cancer is just this very big, daunting, scary thing. And there was a lot of questions and a lot of what ifs, and there's statistics. But basically I just kind of said, okay, I need to get through this. And okay, the treatment is going to consist of these different components. There'll be chemo, there'll be surgery, there'll be radiation. And within those, there'll be different segments. And so I just kind of took that big thing and I showed myself how I could work through it one step at a time to get through to the place where we could get rid of the cancer and I could get back to doing all the things I wanted to do. And I think being able to focus on that one step right in front of me, whether it was getting through a chemo round or a day of radiation or all those things, it helped me kind of literally put marks on the calendar and get through it one day at a time. And now here we are a year later, and as far as we know, I'm cancer free, and I've been able to kind of get back to all the activities that I wanted to do. And I think if I had only thought about the big challenge of there being cancer in my body, that would have been intimidating. But the fact that I could see something to work through every day kept me going.
Right. I mean, it's just really just one day at a time sometimes. I would imagine training is sometimes one training session at a time. I've never trained for anything at an Olympic level, but I've trained for a few minor things. And sometimes it's just I just got to get through right now. And if I can survive now, I can survive the next moment and then the next and the next. And it sounds like that's the approach that you took. And that's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about, like, in terms of preparing yourself for that, how did you go about educating yourself so that you could sort of break it down into those chunks and really understand how to think about it?
Yeah, so I mean, coming into this process, I knew I was going to be a non-traditional patient. I knew I wanted to stay active, so I really worked to find doctors and providers that could understand who I was coming in, how I might process the treatment, and what activities I wanted to get back to at the end of my treatment.
Right.
I felt like that was really important because there's a lot of different decisions that you make within your treatment. You decide what surgical route to go through, and whether or not to do chemotherapy, whether or not to do radiation. And so I think having a team of doctors that could understand who I was and my unique needs was really important. So I took, I would say, a little bit of time up front to select people that felt like the right fit for my team. And I also was really proactive about talking about what I wanted to do. Asking a lot of questions. There's a lot of information that hits you right away. And I remember hearing about the side effects and how important it was going to be to rest and all those things. But I also was curious about what I could do.
Right.
So I was asking, can I continue my interval training? Can I do strength training? What things should I be looking out for? And I think kind of being a little bit of my own advocate and asking those questions and not just taking the first thing they were telling me as the law, but, making it more of a collaborative treatment process, I think was really helpful.
So there's two things you said in there that I think is really, really smart. One is you were your own advocate. So you're not just taking everything at face value, you're asking questions that are specific to you. And then the second thing you said is that you made sure to seek out doctors that understood your specific situation and could create a treatment regimen that would fit you personally rather than just taking a one-size-fits-all approach. And I think that's really, really smart, especially coming from where you're coming from. I mean, you're tip-top physical health, No,
it was really helpful. And thankfully, my doctors were very patient with me, and I think they liked the fact that I was being a bit creative, being collaborative. And I asked actually if I could ride a stationary bike or walk on a treadmill while I was getting my chemotherapy infusions. And my oncologist was actually open to the idea. She said, well, I mean, I don't see a reason why not. Turned out the nurses who would be observing me through the treatment were a little bit nervous about it because if I got a little flush, they wouldn't be able to tell if that was because I was exercising or because I was having a reaction to the infusion.
Right.
So we ended up settling onto the fact that I would ride my bike to my treatment and ride my bike home at the end and just kind of get up occasionally and walk around while I was getting the infusion.
Wow. You rode your bike to and from the chemo treatments. I just want to make sure I heard you say that correctly.
I did. And actually on my way to the treatment, I would also stop at the gym and I would do a pretty aggressive strength training session because I knew going into the infusion, I would feel pretty good.
Right.
And coming out of it, the first one especially, I didn't know how I would feel coming out of it.
Right.
But at the end, I still felt decent. So I rode home. And then I noticed as the rounds progressed that because of the steroids that you take to counteract some of the side effects, I really actually felt pretty good for the first day or two after the treatment. So I knew I'm going to get my exercise in then because I know I feel good. And then if I don't feel good for a few days after that, well, then I at least can have that kind of like feeling of satisfaction that I got some of the work in. And now maybe I take it easy for a few days until I kind of feel like I'm feeling good again. And then I'll kind of get back at it.
Wow. That's so amazing. I love that. And I love that approach. It's such a unique approach to getting cancer treatment, So shifting our conversation just a moment. So let's talk about some support resources for someone who is supporting someone else that's been recently diagnosed. So like, what do you recommend? What are some resources? What are some thoughts around the support network, as it were?
Well, the support network is one of the most, I think, important things about going through treatment. I mean, I was really well supported as an athlete. Always had a great team of people around me, not only taking care of the really technical things, but also kind of being the cheerleaders to help you get through those unbearable low points, or there to celebrate the high points with you. The teammates you're working with day to day, the coaches, of course, my family was incredibly important. So all that was crucial in my athletic career. But then now experiencing the role that my support team played going through cancer, it just blows it through the roof.
Wow.
I mean, as the support team has been coming from all directions for me as I've gone through cancer, and it's been incredible. And I have to say that I've tried to approach this with a pretty positive mindset, but that's not to say I haven't had my points when I doubt and I get scared and I feel crummy and I start to, succumb to some of those negative thoughts. And it was the people around me that helped kind of pick me up and remind me that, there were things to stay positive about. The prognosis was good. If today felt crummy, well, tomorrow might feel better. I really credit a lot of friends who called me, and I think initially they were a little cautious because they didn't know what I was going to be able to do.
Right.
But they took the risk and they called me and said, "Hey, you want to go for a hike? Do you want to go for a mountain bike ride?" And sometimes that was just a little push I needed to get out the door. And then we ended up going out. And maybe if it wasn't the pace I was used to, but the fact that we were out there, we're outside and there's great distraction of conversation. And I always ended up feeling better when I went out and did that. So I'm so glad that my friends, they weren't afraid of what I was going through. They were willing to kind of help lead me through it no matter what. My husband and my parents were just amazing at catching me at those low points of constantly kind of helping me mark the progress of making it through the treatment. My little boy Breck, who's 3 years old now, was the best motivation distraction there is, because no matter how awful I was feeling, I could kind of focus my energy on him and watch him play and be kind of happy and free. And so it was wonderful to have him as kind of part of my support team. He was young enough; he didn't really know what was going on.
Sure.
But he thought it was funny to rub my head when I lost my hair. And when we were going through an airport and he saw a mannequin with no hair, and was like, "Oh, Matt's mom." So all that was incredible. And then I was very open about my treatment and what I was going through on social media.
Right.
And within seconds of putting my diagnosis out there, I was getting messages of support from all over the world. And,
wow.
And again, just helping pick you up on those down days, or kind of knowing that what I was going through, by being able to share that experience, it was helping others. They were sharing with me, giving me tips. We were sometimes going through things at the same time.
Right.
So I feel like being able to take some of that energy and thought process outside of my own head and interact with others was really helpful. And then, especially interacting with people who were supporting another loved one going through it.
Right.
You know how badly they want to help. And so trying to figure out what the best ways are for that. And I would say just about anything. And the more positive, the better. Because
okay.
In this process, that is the one thing you can control is, a positive mindset. And I would say that was one of the really big things about getting through this for me. And again, my support team was incredible at helping me stay positive.
So it occurs to me as a career athlete that you mentioned that you've had a support team as a part of that, and then you had a support team as a part of overcoming this illness as well. So as I'm thinking about that, I realized that not all people are really great at accepting support. It sounds like you've got to be amazing at it, because you've had these teams around you. So what advice would you have to someone that maybe needs a support team and is reluctant to allow other people to come into their lives and give them that support?
Yeah, while I've been used to having the support in my career, I also would say I'm not the best at always accepting. I have an attitude I can handle this. I'm fine. I can do this.
Right.
So I know at points it was tough to kind of figure out all these people wanted to help, and connecting that in with me letting them kind of help me through this was challenging. So for me, what I found kind of most helpful was when people kept things relatively normal.
Okay.
And they were there to just kind of offer an activity to do. that was a nice distraction. Or, when people brought food over, because my motivation to do the general daily tasks, dealing with everything I was going through, those things were super helpful. I also got a lot of incredible care packages in the mail, which had, frivolous, fun things in them that just kind of reminded me about the good side of life and the connection that we share. And so I would say, as a patient or, as the person going through it, just try to recognize that this is the one time in your life when you don't have to be tough. You don't have to do everything yourself. And just, I feel like confronting cancer just was that reminder that I do have incredible people in my life. I shouldn't take the moments with them for granted. And so every opportunity, it doesn't matter if it's the perfect activity or we don't know what to do, just spending time together, I felt like was incredibly important.
Wow. Kikkan, this has been a fantastic interview. I really appreciate your insight, your enthusiasm, your approach to conquering incredibly difficult tasks. It's really, really inspiring. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Well, another little thing that kind of helped me through treatment and ended up being kind of a cool thing to do with my support team was I have these rainbow colored running shoes that I started wearing into my appointments as just that like little reminder to like kind of stay positive, stay happy. And when we realized this was kind of helping me, my husband came up with the idea to come out with some happy socks that you could pull on and that could be that reminder to stay hopeful. And so we kept saying to each other, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Right.
So we put the "It's going to be okay" slogan on the socks. We ended up partnering with Darn Tough out of Vermont, which makes incredibly wonderful socks.
I love Darn Tough socks. They're the best.
Yeah, great socks. And we came out with this "It's going to be okay" sock that's very brightly colored. It's got the inspiration on there. I also love that it says Darn Tough on the toe.
Yes.
But we started offering those through my website as a fundraiser for Active Against Cancer. And we ended up doing some, LL Bean is one of my sponsors, and they donated some headbands. And so we came out with a few of these products, and we've been selling them and hearing the stories of how people are utilizing these, whether it's conquering a medical challenge like cancer or whether it's getting ready for a big race or even a tough job interview.
Yeah.
Sometimes we all just need that little reminder it's going to be okay. So that's been a really fun project for my husband and I to do together. And it's been really cool to hear the stories. So if anyone out there needs a little bit of that inspiration, you can check out shop.kikkan.com, and the happy socks are right there.
I may have to check those out. Well, Kikkan, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Love to have you back on the show again sometime.
Yeah, you're welcome. Love all things pink. So.
Thanks for listening to Real Pink, a weekly podcast by Susan G. Komen. For more episodes, visit realpink.komen.org, and for more on breast cancer, visit komen.org. Make sure to check out @Susan G. Komen on social media. I'm your host, Adam. You can find me on Twitter @AJWalker or on my blog, adamjwalker.com.
Thank you to Sideways 8 for sponsoring this podcast. We all want to break through the noise on the internet and stand out. Sideways 8 is a digital agency on a mission to improve communication through marketing. Whether they're working with tech companies or national nonprofits, Sideways 8 helps you showcase your value while making it easy for people to find you. Sideways 8 services include website design and development, website care plans, digital marketing strategy, branding and messaging, SEO, pay-per-click advertising, and more. To learn more about highlighting the work your organization is doing, head to sideways8.com/Komen. That's SIDEWAYS, 8.com/Komen.